So it's the first week. And I've learned so much just in 1 week. I really hope that I can cover everything. Our first week, we've been doing mostly games and this practice called Viewpoints, which is a movement exercise that gives you more awareness with your body, the people around you, and your emotions. And myself and a lot of my other cohort members have been talking about how we've been feeling emotions that we don't even have the words to explain in some of our exercises. We did Meisner exercise where I finally had a breakthrough in a Meisner exercise. I've been doing this exercise for years, since I started taking classes and doing community theater plays. It's the exercise where you sit in front of someone and they notice something on you. For example, if you are saying something to me, you might say, "You're wearing a black shirt." And then I would repeat, "You're wearing a black shirt." And then we would go back and forth. In the next version, they would say, "You're wearing a black shirt." And then I would say, "I'm wearing a black shirt." And you would go back and forth saying the same thing. Well, before in class, I kind of understood that, yeah, it's about, that exercise is about responding to the other person, right? And like the inflection in their voice. Because you respond to people based on their tone, things like that. So that's how I was looking at it before. And I had a breakthrough moment that it's not only just that, it is responding, listening to the person, listening to the person and responding to them. Because listening to the person and responding to them, aside from the words. So the purpose of that exercise in saying the same words over and over again is so that you do not become attached to the words you are saying. It is so that you can detach yourself from what you're saying and actually listen to how the person is speaking to you and respond. Have an emotional response and allow the emotional response to naturally come up so that you can respond to them while still saying the same exact words. And then you take this technique and it develops into actual conversation so that you are actually listening and responding to the person. And this is important because, let's say you're doing a play, you're doing film, you have to keep doing the scene over and over again. You have to keep saying the same line over and over again. It allows you to be able to enter that space and say that line from that new, fresh, emotional perspective every time, because you are genuinely listening to the person and responding to them rather than just responding to what they are saying to you. You're responding to how they're saying it to you in the emotional place they are coming from. So that was really cool because it was like a click moment in my head. If you hear noises, it's the doggy that I'm pet sitting while I'm here. And so, yeah, that was really awesome. And so today is Saturday. It's the end of the first week. And I went to this workshop where we talked about punctuation walks. And punctuation walks are basically, well, it is a technique where it allows you to memorize your lines within your body. It allows you to discover the emotional characteristics of a character physically. So basically, a period. So like you for punctuation walk technique, for the punctuation walk technique, you attribute a physical action to punctuation. For a period, you stomp at the end, do a 180 spin, and inhale. For a comma, you stomp and spin 180. For an exclamation point, you crouch and move your arms like this. So for example, if I say, this is bad, and there's an exclamation, like bad is the exclamation, I will say, this is bad, right? But if I said this is bad, period, like it would just be a stomp after bad and a spin. So that is the technique that you apply to each line. And so it was interesting because at first it seemed weird because it's like, okay, I'm just assigning these physical actions to punctuation. But then when you become in tune with the body and just focus on the present and become in tune with the body and what the body is doing with the words, the body naturally produces. Everyone's body is unique. The body naturally produces the emotion that will be assigned to that word, that phrase, that character, that moment. And so now with this technique, because I'm also realizing I'm a very physical person, I've realized this over the years, and how I memorize lines already is like literally I have to walk around and pace and write at the same time while I'm memorizing lines. And with this technique, I'm able to literally absorb the lines, the words, the scene into my physical body and understand how I am taking the scene, not how someone else or how the writer wants me to take the scene, but how I am taking the scene uniquely, personally to me, and I can express my version of the character because I have already developed an emotional memory from using this technique with each line. So for example, when I was working in class today, I was surprised because when I was applying the punctuation walk to one of the scenes, to one of the lines, I felt sad. I felt sadness in my body. There's a punctuation walk where you jump and inhale for the 3 dots. When you see 3 dots after a word in a sentence, for that, when you see that, you jump and inhale or you jump and exhale. So jump like that. You take those 3 quick breaths. And I notice when I do that, it will make me feel scared or fearful or anxious, depending on the scene, right? So imagine as you're doing the scene, that physical action is now creating an emotional response from your body. So you are learning for you how you are interpreting that character's personality and their response to the other person in the scene. So now I'm able to take a scene, break it down emotionally, and come into an audition ready with emotional memory for a character. You do this technique at home, and then you forget the lines. And now that you've unlocked the emotional memory for this scene, you're able to access that emotion and new emotion as well. So when I execute the scene in an audition, rehearsal, or whatever, the emotions are able to come up naturally because I have done this work. It's so freaking interesting. It was so cool to learn a new technique. What else did I learn this week? We talked about communication, the different styles of communication. my rights, your rights, no rights, and shared rights. And it's basically passive aggressive, aggressive communication, healthy communication, and no communication. And we in a group we talked about how these different styles of communication arise from people going through trauma in their lives. It is developed from personal experiences. It can be developed as a reaction to something. One can develop after the other. One can just transition to the other. How all these different styles of communication are not like only focused to this one section. Like a person is not only just an aggressive communicator, but they can also be a mix. And it was really interesting to hear people's personal perspectives about these topics because learning about other people's perspective just like opens your world and your lens to different ways of seeing things. I'm trying to see like what notes did I write. But I must have wrote it on the paper itself. But I think that it was good for me to have something written on paper to see the actual various communication styles that people can have and what I might deal with in a professional setting in acting, even aside from my personal relationships. But like, how can I navigate someone who I may be working with that is an aggressive communicator, even if I don't necessarily know how to navigate it with them, because it might be a hierarchical structure that I'm existing in, and so I might still need to participate in that structure because it's a job and I still want it or whatever if I decide to stay. But just more so having the ability to recognize when someone is a certain type of communicator and what that means, and not to take it personally. We talked about consent and intimacy, how to give consent, how it's okay to say no, how your no's can be enthusiastic and positive, and that is okay. And we just really did a lot of games that unlocked our emotions, like I said earlier, to get people loosened up. But oh my gosh, the movement class that I'm doing, we are learning something called Viewpoints, which is, I'm still figuring out what it is, but it's understanding movement through time and space. And how you can relate, interact, or perceive someone else in your scene throughout the space. And we learned about something called kinesthetic response, which is like naturally being able to naturally recognize and react to the natural response, the kinesthetic response that arises when you are in a scene with someone. Because in real life, we are taught to suppress our emotions, suppress our responses, to be seen a certain way, because maybe there is only a certain type of appropriate response. Excuse me. But in acting, you must allow those natural responses to show so that you can accurately reflect and express what that character is. Then we had two actors, Archie and Salim. Archie was the actor that did the punctuation workshop with us as well. She invited us for another day. but they came to talk about just their careers as actors, as directors, as writers, which is really cool. And RT is from Detroit, which is awesome to see another Detroiter working and living and existing in that space. And what I really loved about them is that they spoke so much about being a person of color, being Asian. They talked to me, another Black woman, about navigating the spaces as Black women, and that we should be fearless, and that, you know, go after roles and to stand up for ourselves and exist openly and freely and proudly in these spaces. And they talked about their identity evolving over the years, and it was just really inspiring because as someone whose identity is also still evolving, it's inspiring to see someone who is successful, and by that I mean someone who has a defined career for themselves, who has a certain amount of power, who is able to speak from a place of lived experiences, be in such a position where they can like share. And I hope to be in a position like that one day. There's just so much, y'all. I think one of the main things this week was that I was so freaking tired. Hey, Peanut, come here. Do you want to say hi to the camera? This is Peanut. Say hi, Peanut. Okay. You're very heavy. Well, one of the main things I noticed this week was just how tired I got from waking up at 6 a.m., get ready, take care of the doggo, commute to the train station at 7, take the train to San Francisco for an hour, take another light rail train for 15 minutes to school, be in school from 9 to 5:30, sometimes 9 to 7. Take a bus to the train station, taking the train back home for an hour, get home at 8, 9 o'clock, take the doggo out for a walk, and still work on my app projects and everything. Being multi-passionate is not for the weak, especially when you want to remain disciplined, when you want to keep all the projects that you have afloat. So one thing that I did for that was I created an autonomous AI agent with Hermes that allows you to utilize an AI such as Llama, Quinn, Claude, ChatGPT to create an autonomous agent that has a memory, that has a personality that you can assign tasks to. And so what I did was I created multiple skills for my AI agent so that all I had to do was give her a task. She takes the task, breaks it down, connects to my IDE, which allows her, so I don't have to pay extra money to run code. I have my own review process that it does. All I need to do is review the PR hit approve, merge, and then on the weekends, I can review all the work that has been merged, go through the app, do a build, and review the tasks that I need the agent to complete for next week, which I think I'm going to actually keep this process, and I'm going to make a separate video about this. But I brought this up to say, while in acting school, there's still a way for me to still work on my applications. And so I'm saying this because regardless of what you are doing, if you are multi-passionate, I'm not saying that you need to be constantly grinding, but if you have the capacity and if you have the energy to, you can always find a way to make progress with your projects. Sometimes it might mean just figuring out a way, how can you make things more efficient so that you can get what you need done without having to use too much brain power, too much creative energy, too much physical energy for certain things, especially if these tasks are more so related to producing an income rather than your hobbies. I don't think that you should make any of your hobbies more efficient, or I think that practice should be reserved for things that you are trying to make money from. You're trying to run a business while also pursuing at the same time other multiple creative interests. You need to make that your processes for that business as efficient as possible and autonomous. And in the age of AI, we now have the ability to do that. So I'm going to make a video on that for people. But I think one of the main takeaways that I haven't written down, was needing to prioritize rest and recovery is so important as a multi-passionate person to prioritize that. If you don't get your rest, especially as women, we need to be sleeping between 8 to 10 hours a day to have full recovery in our bodies. Leaning on the 10 hours during your period and the week before your period, you can get away with it after, but women especially need more rest to recover our nervous systems and have access to more mental energy, because we process a lot more mentally on a daily basis. I think that doing this conservatory, it is everything that I've always wanted. Because I'm about to add a dance class during the week. Even though I'm tired, I'm going to do it one day a week, right? Ballet. I prayed for years for the opportunity to be in class from 9 to 5, doing acting, doing dance, vocal. And now that I'm in it, I'm exhausted, but I'm grateful because I'm learning so much about my craft and about myself. So it's really important to be prepared for what you ask for, because what you ask for might be a lot, but it will be what you can handle. I also learned that I need to be more open to what's around me. So opportunities. Going to the event today, I was tired. I could have just, slept in, but I had another breakthrough today in my acting with accessing emotional memory. Well, creating emotional memory and being able to access it. And now I have another technique because I was open to going out to something, regardless of how I felt. And, it is important to honor your body, but you can also push yourself sometimes a little when it comes to opportunities, especially opportunities that you know for a fact you are going to make some connections there and you are going to grow. Because even I was able to connect with two of my cohort members even more. I was able to connect with Artie more. And we had a conversation after class that I think all four of us needed. I had a thought that I have officially reframed my identity as at first it was going to be an actor who's a software developer, not just a software dev who does acting. But today I also updated my LinkedIn to have my business for my startup. Like I made my official company page for my startup, and I put that on LinkedIn as what I'm currently doing now. I keep LinkedIn separate from my acting just because tech stuff is there, but doing that felt good, and I don't think that I will ever identify as a software developer who does acting. But I don't think I can quite identify with an actor who is a software developer. I literally am equally both, and maybe I don't necessarily need a clearly defined label for that. I'm just both. I'm the multi-passionate creatrix. Oh, that was something we talked about. We did this activity in our acting class where you had to do a rant. And I was so uncomfortable to do my rant. I was talking about city planning and then traffic, just complaining about that. That was my theme. And it felt so uncomfortable to show anger and to show authentic anger from myself. Like to talk about something related to me that was vulnerable. Like I can do a monologue or a scene in front of people, and I might be nervous, but I won't be uncomfortable. But it was so uncomfortable getting up there to rant about something that was true to me. And it was very interesting to reflect on because it made me realize that I do still have an issue with being vulnerable and showing anger and showing some emotions. And yeah, acting reveals those kinds of things. Being a Black woman and suppressing my anger, not wanting to show people what it looks like when I'm upset. Or even just talking about myself, like constantly keeping people out on the outside. So this channel is going to help a lot with that. And I chose the monologue Saint Joan by George Bernard Shaw. That monologue accesses a lot of anger, and it's something that I'm currently resonating with a lot for some reason right now. She is very bold and self-assured in who she is, and I think that's why I like it, because I'm coming more into that energy myself. But San Francisco is cool. I'm not sure completely how I feel about it just because it's not a lot of Black people here. But the people I've met have been cool. The weather is okay. It's cold in June. I know it's because they're near the water, but dang. What else? Very expensive, but it is, the ocean is beautiful. Very nice landscape to explore. And there seem to be a lot of opportunities here too. So I enjoy that, and I'm grateful to be here. This first week has really, I've grown so much just in 1 week in understanding myself and realizing things that I need to work on, things that I'm already good at, things that I enjoy. But I think the moments I'm really like happy about were having that breakthrough moment in Meisner and having the new skill that I learned today. Because those two things, it made me feel more aligned here in my heart space with myself, to be able to better recognize emotions and what it feels like to allow those emotions to come through and access them naturally and freely. I wonder what the next 5 weeks have in store.